There's a person called Qetoun who often leaves interesting comments on the site and has said, how did Brexit hurt farmers? Give more evidence than anecdote. Well, I'm only too happy to do so. Brexit has presented significant challenges for UK farmers, affecting their operations through a mix of changes to regulations, market access, labour shortages. I'm going to give you five or six good examples of this. First of all, the loss of EU market access, this tariff and non-tariff barriers that were put up because of Brexit. With Brexit, UK farmers lost their seamless access to the European single market, which was the major export destination for British agricultural products. So we lost our market. Non-tariff barriers like customs checks, certifications, and other regulatory requirements led to delays and increased costs. For instance, the export of lamb, which previously moved without hindrance, faced suddenly bureaucratic challenges that reduced competitiveness in EU markets. There's a study by the UK Trade Policy Observatory, and it's reported a significant drop in exports of perishable goods like dairy and meat. And British meat exports, particularly pork and lamb, dropped by over 20% in volume in the first year after Brexit. Secondly, the issue of labour workforce problems. Brexit's end to the free market of labour meant that UK farmers lost access to the large pool of seasonal workers from Eastern Europe who were essential for harvesting crops and other labour-intensive tasks. And according to the National Farmers Union, the horticultural sector reported significant crop losses because farmers couldn't find enough pickers. In 2021 alone, an estimated £60 million worth of crops were left unharvested because of a lack of workers. Farmers had to increase wages to attract local workers or manage through recruitment agencies, which raised overall labour costs and put financial pressure on farm businesses. Then the subsidy changes. The UK's departure from the EU Common Agricultural Policy meant that farmers no longer received the same level of subsidies, and the government's environmental land management scheme was introduced to replace the Common Agricultural Policy, but it has been met with criticism and hasn't succeeded in the same way, and this is down to twits like Therese Coffey. The National Farmers Union and other agricultural bodies noted that the gradual phasing out of direct payments caused cash flow issues for smaller farms, impacting sustainability, delays and a lack of clarity about how this new environmental land management scheme, ELMS, would work, further compounded farmers' ability to plan long-term investments in their farms. There have been higher costs. Brexit led to increased costs for importing animal feed, machinery, fertilizers, because of tariffs and customs checks. Just imagine if you've got European tractors, you need European machinery to repair them when they go wrong. The Agriculture and Cultural Development Board, the AHDB, highlighted the cost of importing livestock feed, which is vital for UK livestock farmers, surging post-Brexit, squeezing profit margins, and the addition of red tape such as health certificates for animal products created bottlenecks at ports, caused delays. For example, Scottish seafood exports, particularly shellfish, face significant issues with paperwork errors and delays at customs, resulting in substantial financial losses because the entire product was wasted. Finally, when it comes to competitiveness, they face new competition in the domestic market following trade agreements with non-EU countries. Deals with countries like Australia and New Zealand were criticised for potentially undermining the struggling British agriculture as they allowed exports of meat produced under less stringent standards than the ones that we use in Britain. This led to concerns about undercutting UK farmers on price and quality. And while some agreements promised lower consumer prices, they placed pressure on UK farmers' prices, complicating their ability to compete without lowering standards. So yes, Brexit has definitely hurt farmers. And just so I don't sound completely biased here, the European Union's policies also hurt farmers. And the farms that I knew, particularly when I was a child, were badly hurt by a suspension of the seasonal workers scheme. The European Union had both positive and negative impacts on UK agriculture, but one significant issue was this stopping of the seasonal agricultural workers scheme, SAWS, in 2013, which basically destroyed the Lincolnshire, the Spalding bulb industry overnight. SAWS was established to allow young people from Eastern Europe to work temporarily in the UK agricultural sector, addressing labour shortages during peak seasons, and participants, often students, provided essential labour for tasks such as planting and harvesting. The scheme was suspended in 2013, leading to significant labour shortages in agriculture. The bulb industry, which relied heavily on seasonal workers for harvesting and planting, faced operational challenges. The lack of available labour resulted in increased costs, unharvested crops, and essentially the decay of the tulip bulb industry and the loss of the tulip festival in Spalding. That is one of the disadvantages of the EU. And while the Common Agricultural Policy had provided subsidies to farmers, some argued that its regulations were restrictive and didn't always align with specific needs for British agriculture. EU regulations on pesticides, animal behaviour, animal welfare and environmental standards, though aimed at harmonisation, sometimes imposed additional costs and operational challenges on UK farmers. So the cessation of SAWS, influenced by EU immigration policies enacted by the Conservative Minister Gerorge Eustace, led to labour shortages that adversely affected farming industries and other agricultural sectors. And additionally, certain EU policies and regulations presented challenges to UK farming operations. So what we had over this period of 10, 15 years was first problems from the EU, because the British contingent of EU MEPs was more interested in creating friction and causing problems than it was in dealing with the legislation which was going through. They was distracted, and then you have the additional problems which come with Brexit. So farmers have had a really tough time in the last 15 to 20 years, and Qetoun, you really do not know what you're talking about, and I'm sorry when you leave these messages, but I will respond, and I will continue to respond. So thank you for the opportunity. But the reality for farmers post Brexit has been dire.